Hello and welcome to this week's Functional Friday. Today we are talking about stress management. So grab your cup of tea or your coffee and we're going to get into it, guys. It's very important through perimenopause and menopause, and I'm looking at both screens because I got two things going on right now, that we are managing our stress and our energy through this time period. So I really want to thank you all for coming today or watching the replay. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to start with a short little story about why this topic was even on my mind today. I have admittedly been burning myself out this week. I'm coming up on the last 2 months of me working basically three jobs, trying to build my business, working in the business, working part-time at the hospital, and then I also this weekend I will be doing my one day a week at Social Security Assessment Clinic. And it's been a lot. So I have been working from get up at 5 a.m. and then have my full day, and some days going until 8 p.m. And I finally burned myself into the ground yesterday, where 4 o'clock rolled around and I was just done, just completely done. Felt very overwhelmed, very stressed out about all of that. But it's a good lesson because it shows that I need to work on some things as far as my stress management and how hard I'm going. When I think about things, great analogy would be working out at the gym. So in the gym, you want to go 7 to 8 out of 10 on most days, and then do deload day. Hello. Then do deload day, but you don't want to redline yourself every single time that you are in the gym, right? You don't need to, and nor should you go 9, 10 out of 10 every single time because the name of the game is actually consistency. The consistency is what's going to build the results. Well, guess what? That translates into a lot of other things too, into your life, into your business. And I forgot that this last week. I went 9, 10 out of 10 until I couldn't do it anymore. And I wish I could just take a day off, but we don't always have that ability, that opportunity. We have obligations, we have jobs that we need to go to, we have families we need to take care of. So, what do we do in these situations when we are just overloading our plate and finding ourselves so burnt out that you do things that end up actually being self-destructive because you went too far? And I'm talking about things like, reaching for those vices, those things that will make you feel better in the moment, but are actually self-destructive. You stay up too late watching another show because you just need to get your mind off of it. It's the only way you can stop thinking about all your stress. Or you overeat, or you reach for alcohol, or whatever it is that you're trying to fill that need for self-care. And when you are able to stop and go, why am I doing this? This isn't productive. It's actually going to put me in a downward spiral and make things worse. How do I come back from this to make sure that I am taking care of myself in a better way that is actually productive and filling up my cup as opposed to making me more tired? Now have lack of sleep today and but I got to keep going. How do we stop the cycle is really the question. And for those women who are here you're over the age of 35, you're going through perimenopause or even approaching menopause, it becomes even more important because of the stress that we are feeling from the higher cortisol levels that we already experience because we're going through this transitionary phase. We need to take even better care of ourselves. But really, this applies to anybody at all who's listening. Thank you guys for joining me. Hello. I'm also live over on TikTok while I'm recording on Zoom for everybody else. So thank you so much for joining me. So, what do we do instead? Well, again, going back to that redlining yourself, going 9 or 10 out of 10, when really what we're trying to do is make sure that we're going, let's try a 6 out of 10. Let's try a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. Because again, the name of the game is consistency. If you can show up consistently and give a good effort as opposed to 10 out of 10 all the time, pushing yourself super hard, not recovering, that applies in life too, as it does in the gym, then we are actually able to move the needle forward, move the ball forward a lot faster than the big pushes. Now, sometimes we do need to do a big push. That's okay, but we know that there's a season and we plan to have that downtime. But we're talking about times when you're not necessarily pushing for an end date. It's just this is life. And when you get caught on that hamster wheel of life continually feeling like you're just getting beat down. So what do we do about that? Assessing where you are. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm doing too much. I'm straight up doing way too much. I am so guilty of this, and when I talk to clients about it, I'm able to see it a lot, more objectively when you're looking at somebody else than when you're looking at yourself. It could be really hard. That's why I have coaches, I have a therapist, I have people that I talk to because you really can't see yourself objectively. It's very, very difficult because you're in your own head. So, by the way, totally normal. Nothing wrong with you. So, what we do is we need to take a step back and go, what is really necessary here? And then where can we ask for help? Who can help take things off your plate? Does that actually need to even be on your plate? And I'm in a very fortunate position where I have a really amazing partner who is allowing me to take this opportunity to step back from the hospital so I can focus on my business full time, which is amazing because at this rate, it's been over a year now that I've been managing this and I've had the business for 3 years. It's not growing because I'm not able to focus on it. I'm barely treading water most days, and that doesn't feel good. And after a year of this, I am so tired. I am exhausted, and I'm recognizing that in myself. Thankfully, going through all of the things that I've gone through and trying to heal my own body with my thyroid and my adrenals and my gut health and everything too. And now perimenopause kicking in and my sex hormones are starting to change and fluctuate, which was happening before, but it's more dramatic through this time period. I'm able to now pull on these tools and resources that I've built up over time. And that's what I hope to give to all of you is tools and resources that you can use to pull yourself back in. And it's not a question of if things will go sideways on you, it's when they go sideways. So when they do, what do we do about that? All right, so I'm gonna get back to my notes here. Perimenopause and cortisol connection, we talked about that. So going through perimenopause, as we have fluctuations in our sex hormones, we also have a coinciding increase in cortisol levels. It's very normal part of it. It's kind of a stressful time for the body. It is our second puberty, basically. So when you're going through all of those changes, there's some rewiring that's happening during this time period. And whether that's mild symptoms or it's very severe symptoms, it's still happening within the body. So what we do is we need to, again, really be more mindful about how we are managing our energy and our stress. Are you being intentional about the time that you take out of your day, whether that is 1 minute of breathing? It can make such a huge difference to bring yourself back into that parasympathetic nervous system, as opposed to always running in the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight, flight, freeze. We want to go back to the sympathetic nervous system, rest, digest, restore. We don't do this enough in our day-to-day lives. And so then we find ourselves again redlining all the way through until we burn out. And that's not where we want to be, guys. I also want to make sure that you guys are giving yourselves permission to reset. I know that's really hard because, again, we have so many obligations, we have so many things that we are trying to do, and we have this expectation, probably more placed on yourself than anyone else has actually placed on you, that you need to meet this certain standard. And if you don't meet that, then there's something wrong with you. You're a bad person. Why do you need to take a nap? But it that's not reality. We need to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves and to take the time that we need to rest and restore, sharpen those blades before you get back out there. It is so important to do this. And you don't need to justify yourself to anyone. You don't need to tell anyone why you're saying no. to certain things. No is a complete sentence. uh, all of these extra obligations that we take on, and think about why you're saying yes to something. Sometimes we say yes because we're trying to convey a certain value. I'm valuable if I say yes to coordinating somebody's baby shower. Things like that, that if that fills you up and it makes you happy, then do that. But if it's overloading your plate and it's draining your energy and you don't have time for yourself, you really need to assess that, because you cannot serve at your highest level if you are constantly being drained of your energy all the time. So, saying no, putting up boundaries, and then listening to your body's cues. So, another story here. I was helping my girlfriend to do her workout this morning. She just had a baby a couple months ago. And she was talking about how last night the baby woke up at 2:30 in the morning and was being super fussy and wasn't taking the bottle very well. Like, baby was hungry, but was also like kept putting his hands in his mouth and making it difficult. And she was so tired and frustrated, and she was getting really angry. And but she's so self-aware. I just love this. She was able to take a step back and go, "Why am I so mad right now? Why am I frustrated with this tiny little thing?" And she goes, "I'm tired. I'm really tired." And then you just acknowledging that. And I did that with myself this morning too. Same type of a thing. I got frustrated during my workout because I didn't get enough sleep last night. So it wasn't the best training session. And I got a little frustrated and I caught myself and I was like, a bad self talk thing was going on in my head. And I stopped and was like, Nicole, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? I am tired. It's okay to be tired. It's okay. And it's okay to back off. It's okay to cut the workout short. I was 30 minutes in and I wasn't feeling any better. So I was like, you know what? We did work today. This is a win. We came out here, I moved my body, and it's not feeling any better. It's starting to drain me more. So we're done and we're going to listen to that. You have so much intuition, and we're really, unfortunately, that's part of the problem, is that we're really taught to shut that down and not listen to that inner voice in your head or in your wherever your intuition comes from, that you feel it in your body, whether that is your gut, which is your second brain, whether that is your heart, which is your third brain, your first brain, and then your actual brain. Wherever you're feeling that, we do need to listen to that, because our bodies are so intelligent. They're talking to us all the time, and if we stop to listen, we're really able to tune into ourselves and figure out what's going on. And sometimes that needs to be a more gentle process. If you have history of trauma or anything like that, you definitely work with a therapist if that feels triggering for you. I'm not a therapist, I'm a nurse practitioner, so you can't speak to that, but I can tell you that if you are feeling triggered by just trying to listen to yourself and you feel the need to shut that down, that's definitely something to work on. It's amazing how the mental anxieties and things like that, past traumas, all of these things, it affects our body, right? It affects our hormones, which then affects our chemistry, which then affects our bodies and affects your gut and it affects your skin and your health and your energy. And it is all connected. And to think that we could divorce the two, you can no more cut your head off and continue to breathe and live than you can stop listening to your heart and your mind and your body and your mind and your intuition than you can to fix the body. It is one and the same. So that's super, super important. And I know that a lot of women get dismissed. We tend to be more intuitive, and you really get dismissed when you go in with things that are sometimes they can be kind of vague. There's upwards of 120 some symptoms and signs of perimenopause. And it takes time to figure out exactly what is going on. And sometimes it's a process, and a lot of doctors, unfortunately, don't have time for that in the Western medicine realm and insurance realm, which is why I don't practice in either of those realms anymore. I'm stepping out of that because I want to be able to address holistically and really get to that root cause, causes, usually more than one, in order to really help the person come out of that and return back to health. The body wants to heal, the mind wants peace and wellness. This is our natural state. We're just returning to it. So, coming up with strategies and toolbox and things that we can do in a regular on our day-to-day basis, how do we do that? So let's talk about that. So I'm gonna take a sip of my tea. I'm gonna chat for a while. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining me over on TikTok. So let's talk about micro recovery movements throughout the day. These do not need to take a ton of time out of your day. It doesn't need to be a huge thing. You don't need to don't overthink it. Pretty much with anything. We overthink things, we try and make it too perfect, and then we don't do it because it's overwhelming. So, little micro recovery moments throughout the day. You can take 1 to 5 minutes and do some breath work or some meditation. There's lots of free, wonderful guided meditation out there. There's also apps. I really love Gabby Bernstein's app. I use her app a lot. Mind Valley also has a lot of programs in there. Gaia, Gaia, is also a really fantastic one. Also has yoga, has meditations, has shows on there on interesting topics if you're into that kind of thing. So there's lots of resources out there for you to do that. Next is taking stretch breaks between tasks. We sit a lot, sitting in my office right now in the corner of my gym. So I'm going to make sure after I'm done talking to you guys that I'm going to get up and I'm going to move and I'm going to stretch. I am drinking my water, got my giant jug of water, and I'm drinking my jasmine green tea, which is nice and warming and soothing and not too overstimulating. I've already had some coffee this morning, so I'm going to try and not overdo that because, again, we're just pushing through. If you hear anything in the background, my husband is working right next door on the she shed, so I apologize if you're hearing any. And then next door, they're putting in a new septic tank, so it's like construction on either side of me. So thankfully, I have some pretty good microphones here. Stepping outside and getting some fresh air and some sunlight. Spring is here, guys. It is so beautiful outside and it's starting to warm up. And even the crispness in the air in the morning, it feels so good. So, getting outside, super important, especially in the morning. Getting out and getting that sunlight on your skin and in your eyes, it helps to reset your circadian rhythm. It resets the pineal gland, lets you, it's daylight. And then at night, making sure you're having a good nighttime routine because it takes anywhere from an hour or more for melatonin to really kick in and come into play. And things like blue light really do make a difference. So, and then adjusting your workouts. I talked about that, how I had to adjust my workout this morning because I was tired. And I think it's good, even if you do wake up and you're a little bit like, oh, I don't, because motivation is fleeting. Not, it's very fleeting. So having a routine and a discipline is really more important than having motivation. I don't always feel motivated, honestly. Most days I don't feel motivated. I just do. It is just a daily routine that I implement and I feel better afterwards usually. But if you go and do your routine, your workout, and you're finding that, oh, you're 20, 30 minutes in and you are not picking up. You're starting to lag and you're gassing out, and you're needing longer rest breaks. And that's exactly where I was this morning. I was like, 1 minute's not enough. My heart rate is still super high and I'm tired and I'm kind of grumpy, and this isn't actually helping me right now. So I said, I'm good. I got in my 30 minutes and now I'm done. And now I'm going to go ahead and move on with the rest of my day. I had a very nourishing post workout breakfast. And then I spent some time with a friend. So listening to your body and what you need, and that is okay. If you need to swap your workout entirely and just go for a walk. Movement is still very important, but sometimes we need to adjust our movement to account for where we're coming from, and that is okay. And guess what? It might be more than just one day. You might need more than just one day of recovery, especially if you are one of those. I've had a couple of clients who come to me who have really bad chronic fatigue, really bad. We test their cortisol levels and they are just in the toilet, right? That's going to take time. It might take a lot of time, depending on if we're able to remove those stressors that were even because it's it's kind of like I give you the antidote and then you go back and take the poison again. So I give you the antidote and take the poison again. So we have to remove the poison so the antidote actually has a chance to work, right? Well, our lives are so much more complex than that. So listening to yourself, making sure that you are taking care of yourself, and it takes the time that it takes. But do keep moving as much as you can because completely being stagnant is not good. That will lead to less energy. It will lead to depression. It will lead to deconditioning and things that are just very, very bad for the body. So we don't want to do that either. So let's talk about foods. Making sure that you're eating enough protein. About 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight is really important. Getting enough healthy fats. Thankfully, the low fat craze is not really a thing anymore. In fact, people have gone the other direction with things like keto, but we want to make sure that those fats are healthy fats. So you want higher omega 3s than omega 6s. We get a lot of omega 6s just normally in our diet. So focusing on those omega 3 sources, things like fatty fish, avocado, flax seeds, chia seeds, almonds, things like that. And then whole foods as much as possible. Every once in a while, having a little treat is not a bad thing. And in fact, that's part of self care. But the majority of your food, 85 to 90%, should be from whole foods because it's very nourishing to the body. And think of that not so much as like, oh, I have to eat this healthy food and it's boring. No, this is part of your self care routine, guys. This is part of what will help you to feel so much better in your body. And that's really, really important. And then hydration, about that, making sure that you're drinking plenty of water, especially when you're stressed out. You should actually be drinking more water. And then, of course, if you're very active, if you're outside and it's hot, you need more water, not less. All right. So, how do we pre schedule non negotiable recovery time? Uh, that is really something that you have to customize to yourself because only you know where your line is. And sometimes, many times, right, we find that out the hard way. We find out where our line is by really ramming ourselves into it. So, okay, there's our line. Now, let's try and work backwards from there. And let's say, so I'll use myself as an example again. I went 9 to 10 out of 10 all week. And then by Thursday, 4 o'clock, I was just done. My brain didn't want to work anymore. And I knew if I tried to push it any further, I would be making more mistakes. I'd be getting more frustrated. I would be just making more work for myself, quite honestly, if I tried to keep going. So I stopped. But it was already too late. I was already past the point of being able to recover in a healthier way. So I ended up not getting enough sleep because I stayed up too late watching a show because I just didn't want to think anymore. I wanted to turn it off. And then I ate like a little more than I should have, you're self-soothing. So let's take a look at now. Okay, using as an example. Let's go at a 7 to 8 out of 10 during the week, and maybe we can make it through the week in a sustainable way without needing that. Or if we do need to push, maybe we're on a deadline or something, how can we push before we need to go, okay, I know that if I don't stop now and take some time for myself, it's not going to be good. I'm not going to be productive. And in fact, I'm going to start to be self destructive with my things I'm trying to self soothe and reaching for things that I shouldn't, like whether that is food, alcohol, staying up too late, any type of vice that you can think of. Let's try and cut that off before we get to that point. Will we be perfect at it? Of course not. Are we going to still push ourselves too far sometimes? Absolutely. It is life, people. Like, this is what we do. But again, we have things in our toolbox that we can pull ourselves back and recover from that and be kinder to ourselves and understand that, okay, I too far that time. I learned from that though, and we're gonna modify and then continue to move forward. Okay. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up here. I appreciate all your time and your attention. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments, and you guys over on Zoom, you can send me a chat message. Um, what are you doing this week and this weekend to take time for yourself? and your productivity is not tied to your worth. Your worthiness is inherent. We cannot take that from you. But the small, consistent, small adjustments that you can make so you don't push through until you crash, but you actually are able to stop yourself before you get to that point and take the time that you need to recover so that you can come back even stronger and be even more productive and really crush it. Have all the things that you want and desire and like you in your life and you deserve. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will see you next time. Bye. Bye, everyone.